Good morning, I'm Reverend Alison, and the reading this morning is from John's Gospel, chapter 1, verses 1 to 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and life was the light of all people, the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, all who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. The Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. When I started to prepare for this talk, I read that in American seminaries a whole term is spent studying and unpicking these words, and we've got less than 10 minutes. I think it's interesting to note that John uses words in this prologue that he doesn't particularly use in other places in his gospel, like word or logos, grace or charis, only son monogenesis, and the word for tent or tabernacle. And this reading starts in a very different place to Matthew and Mark and Luke. Matthew and Luke start with the birth of Jesus, Mark with the baptism, but John takes us far, far further back, right back to the beginning. And we remembered those words at the start of Genesis, in the beginning. And we're told that the Word was there at the beginning with God and was God. And John really hammers this home and then compares the fact that John the Baptist was not the Word, was not the light that had come into the world. And I think this is to do with the conflicts between followers of Jesus and followers of John the Baptist at the time. And then we're told that the Word was the light, and the light gave life. And even in this scientific age, we're very aware that light is needed as a source of energy and therefore a provider of life. So the Word gives us not only light, but life. And no matter how dark things are, a chink of light can illuminate a dark space. And this is one of the themes of John's Gospel. And we're reminded of Nicodemus, who comes to see Jesus in the dark at night, but despite having met him, goes away still in the dark, that is, not really understanding. And then we have the idea that the Word became flesh, became human, took on a human form and entered the world being a place where humans live as opposed to heaven, where God lives and where the Word came from. And he came and lived among humans, and the word often used there is he tabernacled or tented. The Word or Jesus pitched his tent amongst human beings. And in some ways this seems to show an intent of being serious on doing business and working and living. But it also casts us back again to the Old Testament and the experience in the wilderness of the tabernacle or the tent of presence, where God was said to live amongst his people and he travelled round amongst his people throughout the wilderness. And likewise, Jesus lived amongst humans and moved around with his disciples. And there's something also about this reading, about it being in community. And we often talk about the community to which John is writing, a community that's afraid of being cast out of the synagogue, of persecution. And there's often references in this piece of work to we and us. So what does it mean to us today, these beautiful but words that sometimes we struggle to understand? We live in a time of darkness, but there's a chink of light within that dark that we must turn to. And we can't expect to remember and understand everything at the moment. But as we travel with our journey with Jesus, things will become lighter and more obvious, and we will be left less and less in the dark. And John talks also about we have seen the glory. Yes, we've seen the glory of Jesus, but the ultimate glory is yet to come. And for John, the glorious moment is that of the cross when Jesus is lifted up. For in John's Gospel, there is no ascension story. We, human beings, have had a glimpse of Jesus' glory, and as disciples today, travelling on and having our eyes opened a little bit more each day and moving more towards the light, we have seen